Paranormal Skeptic Academy presents Profiles in the Paranormal. Welcome to the first Profiles in the Paranormal. In these short episodes, I'll look at various historical figures and events involving the paranormal. Everyone from skeptics to scientists to investigators and psychics. All will be explored. And to start things off, our first subject is Irish psychic Eileen Garrett. Eileen Garrett was born in Beaupark, Ireland in 1893. At an early age, her parents committed suicide and she was sent to live with an aunt. Eileen admits to being a difficult child, and because of this she would, quote, separate into a world of her own. This, she claims, was where she gained her psychic abilities. She would later marry Clive Barry, with whom she had 4 children. Eileen was aware of her mental illness, shocking for a psychic. She claimed to hear voices in her head and showed signs of dissociative identity disorder. Eileen and her husband both believed she was on the brink of madness. Not overlooking a gift horse in the mouth, she used her mental illness to her advantage and took on trance mediumship. So, which was it? Mental illness or psychic abilities? Eileen was different from most psychics because she didn't believe in the spiritualist hypothesis, meaning that she didn't believe spirits spoke to her, but instead she received her information from a magnetic field. She said this, quote, in all my years of professional mediumship, I have had no sign, test, or slightest evidence to make me believe I have contacted another world, end quote. So what was responsible for her gifts besides magnetic fields? She believed her trances controlled personalities from within her subconscious and even admitted that, quote, I do not believe in individual survival after death, end quote. Eileen gave names to her 2 subconscious trance controllers, Abdul Latif and Uveni. In 1934, she was tested by psychologist William Brown in a word association test administered by the psychical researcher Whately Carrington. The test showed that her trance controls were from her subconscious using repressed material. They used the term secondary personalities. Now, I'm not sure if that diagnosis would hold true today. She was also tested by psychical researcher Herwood Carrington. He used galvanic skin response test and blood pressure monitoring and concluded that her controls were secondary personalities and not spirits or telepathy. Eileen herself also called her trance controls, quote, principles of the subconscious, unquote, formed by her own inner needs. In 1934, Eileen traveled to Duke University to meet with and be tested by J.B. Ryan using Zener cards. However, Eileen didn't fare too well. Ryan tested for 2 different paranormal phenomena, clairvoyance and telepathy. Telepathy is when you get information directly from someone's mind. Clairvoyance is getting information from somewhere else, like a spirit that knows specific information. According to Ryan, she scored above chance in telepathy and less so using clairvoyance. Although she scored above chance, she would later claim that the cards lacked psychic energy. She was later tested by parapsychologist Samuel Scholl in 1937 at the University College of London in the psychology department. She totaled over 12,000 guesses and not once scored above chance. Saul wrote this, quote, in the case with Miss Eileen Garrett, we failed to find the slightest confirmation of Dr. J.B. Ryan's remarkable claims relating to her alleged powers of extrasensory perception. Not only did she fail when I took charge of the experiments, but she failed equally when 4 other carefully trained experimenters took my place, end quote. Ryan's methodology was once again called into question, and his results were not replicated. However, Eileen is not without controversy, and her most controversial claim involved the R101 disaster. R101 was a British rigid airship completed in 1929. During its maiden voyage overseas to France, it crashed on October 5th, 1930, killing 48 of the 54 people on board. It was claimed by spiritualists that Eileen channeled secret information from the spirit of Lieutenant Hubert Carmichael Irwin a few days after the crash. They claim there was no possible, naturalistic explanation for knowing these secret details. Eileen was trying to contact a recently deceased Arthur Conan Doyle, but somehow contacted Irwin, probably a mix-up in the communication. Eileen wanted to know the cause of the crash, and who better to ask than someone who died on the airship. Over the coming months, a Major Oliver Veelers, a friend of Irwin and several others on board the ship, attended the seances and claimed to have spoken with Irwin and other victims of the crash. It wasn't until many years later that skeptics started looking into the claim that Eileen knew secret information about this airship and crash. It turns out, through the work of magician John Booth, that Eileen followed closely the building of the airship, and that she knew several high-profile people on the build. Could one of them have told her insider information? Possibly, but we don't need that to debunk the psychic understanding of the crash. Melvin Harris, a British paranormal debunker, went to the primary sources. In the early years of seances, meticulous notes were taken, and Harris discovered from the primary sources involving the R101 seances that it was a hoax. The entire story of the psychic connection and the secret information was completely made up by spiritualists. The R101 crash seances contained no secret information, and what was known was common knowledge reported in the papers. Archie Jarman, a writer, researcher, and friend of Eileen, was asked by Eileen to dig into the famous R101 airship case as deep as he could, and this is what he wrote about that. Quote, "The complete saga, so often briefly mentioned, turned out to be a pretty massive affair. It took nearly 6 months and finally filled 455 pages of typescript and blueprints. It involved 2 trips to France, seeking the few remaining witnesses at Beauvais where the R101 crashed. There were conferences with aeronautical experts, such as the designers of the R101's heavy diesel engines, which was partly responsible for the fatal crash, and with the aging and active captain of the sister ship R100. It was the technical aspect of this case that makes it unique in psychic history. And I mean unique, my opinion, is that greater credulity is demanded to believe that Eileen obtained her obscure and specialized data by mundane means than to accept that, in some paranormal manner, she had contact with the remembering psyche of a dead Captain Irwin to the moment of his incineration with this vast airship." End quote. Eileen's seances were nothing special and are copied the world over by psychics today. Here's an example taken from the book Unbelievable. Quote, "I get the impression of 2 gentlemen and 2 ladies, and I would like to tell you about the gentleman first," Uveni would say through Eileen, "the name William or Henry in connection with him. He gives to me the sensation of holding up to me a chain. With this chain it is like a locket or pendant. Or, he was very tired and suffered from infection of the abdomen." End quote. New psychics today, but same old tricks. Eileen was unique in that she accepted that her powers came from within her own mind, but she still believed she was contacting or being contacted by spirits. Her separate personalities did the communicating with the spirits, not Eileen herself. This allowed her to compartmentalize her beliefs, which we all do so very well. Eileen is considered one of the world's greatest psychics, but when examined closely, her mystique falls away and we are left with a woman who most likely suffered from mental illness, but turned that illness into a damn good career in life. However, it's been demonstrated that she was indeed not psychic, but she was indeed a very interesting character in the world of the paranormal. Thank you for listening to this episode of Profiles in the Paranormal. If you enjoy the work I do, sign up to be a member at patreon.com/PSA. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/pskepticacademy and like the Facebook page at facebook.com/Paranormal Skeptic Academy. Catch up on all past episodes at paranormalskepticacademy.com.